Hey everybody, Seth David here, your managing editor here at BetweenWallAndMain.com. I'm here with Desarie, and did I pronounce that right? Is it Desarie? Is that how it's pronounced?
Yes, Desarie, that's correct.
Desarie Anderson, and we are going to talk a little bit about what you're going to be contributing. First of all, thank you so much for your willingness to contribute. I really appreciate it. It's always great to have great content. And why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and whom you do it for?
Well, my name is Desarie Anderson, and I am a CPA licensed in the state of Georgia. I'm also an IRS enrolled agent and a QuickBooks Pro advisor. I have my own business here in Georgia, and I've had it for quite a while. But prior to me owning my business, I worked for the Department of Revenue as a tax auditor. So my clients love to see me coming, of course. And after that, I worked for another CPA firm as a financial auditor, dealing with mostly nonprofit organizations.
That's amazing. You know, I love that you have the audit background. I started out as an auditor, working for, it was through Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Wisconsin by contract with the Healthcare Financing Administration. We used to do Medicare and Medicaid audits. So I love that you have that in your background. I think it's so valuable to our clients, to have that background so that we understand what things look like from the audit perspective, which means we know how to prepare them really well for if on the time that we hope never comes, that they might have to be able to, defend themselves, for lack of a better word, in an audit. And that brings us to your column subject matter. And I love the title of your column. We're calling it Keeping Startups and Small Business on the IRS's Good Side. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, in my business, one of the major things I do is I help individuals and mostly small businesses with IRS issues. And I've found over the years working with small businesses, they have the three main reasons why they tend to get into trouble. The first one is improper entity selection. A lot of times they'll choose an entity based upon what so-and-so told them. And I'm yet to find out who so-and-so is. But so-and-so told them that, if you choose an S corporation, guess what? You get to pay less in taxes, which technically is true. However, it's not necessarily for everyone. So you have to know why you're picking the entity. So they'll pick the entity saying, I'm going to pay less taxes. But then guess what? They wind up filing as a sole proprietor. So you have that dichotomy. So what happens is they do that for 3 years. Then the IRS, it takes the IRS a while to eventually come knocking on your door. But 3 years later, the IRS comes knocking and they say, we're looking for your 1120S. And they say, well, I filed my taxes, but, come to find out they filed as a sole proprietor. So that tends to create a lot of problems. And it's, have to go back and pretty much go back and unwind all the issues and try to make it right. And it tends to cost the taxpayer a lot of money in penalties and in interest, and of course my fee. So I try to help them in the beginning to avoid that from happening by helping them choose the right entity. But if they didn't meet me before that, then I help them unravel the mess that they created.
Got it. So entity selection is one. What were the other two?
Okay, so the second one would be I love QuickBooks. Don't get me wrong. But QuickBooks has led people to believe that they can do their own books. So, people run around saying, I don't need to hire a CPA. I don't have to hire a bookkeeper. I can just do it myself, or I have my daughter do it. So they'll do that. They'll have somebody else do it, or they'll do it themselves. And what happens is the financials tend not to be quite right. And they'll take those same financials, hand them to a tax preparer to say, okay, here are my financials, now can you do my tax return? And if the tax preparer has no idea about accounting, they'll just take the information given to them by their client and input it into the system. And as you know, garbage in, garbage out. Mm-hmm. And then the tax return happens to be wrong. And then once again, 3 years down the road, the IRS comes a knocking and they say, things don't look right. So what happens is I usually have to go back and help them, of course, unravel that mess as well. So one of the things that I do in my business is I help clients set up their accounting systems correctly so that they can, spit out the correct information. Because not all clients really want to hire or can afford to hire a CPA or a bookkeeper or an accountant. But, if they have if their accounting systems are correct, they can at least provide their tax preparers with correct information. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is payroll.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah, that's a big dirty one. It really is, because IRS, they don't play when it comes to payroll. And what happens is, because small businesses tend to be strapped for cash, they collect the income taxes, they withhold the income taxes from their employees, and they say, well, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and use this month's income taxes to fund my business. And then it becomes a snowball effect. And what happens is they wind up not paying the IRS, and by the time the IRS gets to them, they owe a whole lot of money. And the IRS, like I say, they don't play when it comes to payroll taxes, and the penalties and the interest are devastating. And I've seen some business have to shut down because of payroll issues. So I try to help them not get into that mess to begin with.
Right. Okay. So that's what we can look forward to reading about on your column, is how to make sure that we don't get tripped up by those three. And I'm sure there are plenty others that you'll be talking about in terms of, little pitfalls that we can run into that can get us into trouble.
Absolutely. One of the things I'll be writing about is the red flags that the red flags that IRS look for when it comes to auditing. And one of the things are cash-intense businesses, for example, hair salons and restaurants. They tend to be heavily cash businesses. So the IRS, they have a bullseye. IRS put a bullseye on their back because they know that they don't tend to report all the income. So I'll be writing about that, and also different types of installment agreements that you can choose from, because the IRS knows that you still have to operate. So they don't want to take it to the cleaners, but they want their money. So you have different types of agreements that you can get into to help you pay off whatever debt that you owe the IRS.
Got it. Great. Well, I think this is going to be amazing content. I can't wait to see what you have for us, and looking forward to getting your first piece out there. And again, I just want to thank you so much for your willingness to participate and contribute.
Well, thank you. And I've been stalking you for the past 3 or 4 years now, so on the internet. So it's really great to finally get to speak with you.
Likewise, and thank you so much. I've, of course, seen you around online, and it's been great sort of having you as part of the community, and I'm looking forward to sort of taking things to the next level here.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Desarie.